Heinrich Himmler bit into a cyanide capsule on May 23, 1945, and escaped justice. He left behind a ruined nation, millions of victims, and a family. The architect of the Holocaust took the coward's way out, leaving his wife, mistress, and children to handle the wreckage of the Reich he helped destroy. The Himmler bloodline is a history of unrepentant loyalty, secret lives, and a great niece who finally dared to confront the monster in her family tree. Subscribe and turn on notifications to catch every piece of hidden history before we trace the path of these descendants. The manhunt ended when news of Himmler's suicide reached the Allied forces. But the problem of his family had just begun. His wife Margareta and their teenage daughter Gudrun had been captured in Italy days earlier. The Americans viewed them as keys to understanding the SS, while the German public saw them as symbols of the regime's elite. Mother and daughter were moved between internment camps in France, Italy, and Germany. They were stripped of their luxury, but kept their arrogance. Gudrun refused to believe her father had committed suicide and insisted the British had murdered him. This delusion sparked a decades-long crusade to clear his name. Hedwig Potthast fled across a broken Germany with 2 small children, while Margareta sat in a cell. Himmler's former secretary and longtime mistress had lived a life of privileged seclusion during the war. Himmler called her his little bunny, and they had 2 children, Helga and Nanette. The protection of the Reichsfuhrer SS vanished in the spring of 1945. Hedwig found herself alone in a country that despised her lover. Lacking Margareta's fame became her only advantage. She slipped into the chaos of post-war population transfers to keep her identity and her children's parentage out of the headlines. She was desperate to shield them from the victor's vengeance. Margareta Himmler faced a tribunal that demanded answers. The denazification courts aimed to purge German society. Marga tried to portray herself as an apolitical housewife who baked cakes while her husband organized genocide. This performance failed when evidence showed she had been an enthusiastic Nazi Party member since 1928. She was classified merely as a lesser offender in the initial confusion of the late 1940s. A Munich court finally reclassified her as a beneficiary of the regime in 1953 after years of legal arguments. Her punishment was 30 days of punitive labor she had already served and the loss of her pension. She walked away bitter and impoverished. Gudrun Himmler refused to disappear. While other Nazi children changed their names or hid in shame, Gudrun wore her identity proudly. She became a cult figure known as the Princess of Nazism to the far-right remnants. She had been her father's puppy, and he took her on tours of concentration camps as if they were zoos. That indoctrination remained with her. She dedicated herself to the welfare of former SS officers in the 1950s and viewed them as victims of Allied justice. She married writer Gudrun Burwitz, but never dropped her maiden name entirely. She viewed the name not as a stain, but as a crown she refused to remove. Gudrun proved her loyalty through action. She led Silent Aid, an organization founded to assist arrested Nazis. The group served as a lifeline for war criminals on the run, rather than a charity for old soldiers. Gudrun helped fund legal defenses and provided housing for men like Klaus Barbie and Anton Maleth. She operated from a quiet Munich suburb and attended neo-Nazi rallies well into her old age. Younger admirers treated her with reverence. Gudrun acted as an anchor dragging Germany back while the nation tried to move forward, ensuring the SS Brotherhood had a friend long after the war was lost. Gudrun appeared to be a private citizen with abhorrent views for decades. A secret emerged from the West German Foreign Intelligence Agency archives shortly after her death in 2018. Heinrich Himmler's daughter had been on their payroll from 1961 to 1963. She worked under a false name as a secretary in the agency's headquarters. The agency was led by Reinhard Gehlen, a former Wehrmacht general who recruited heavily from ex-Nazi ranks. This revelation that German taxpayers funded the Nazi princess caused a significant scandal. It proved that Third Reich influence lingered in the new democracy's institutions. Hedwig Potthast chose a different path for her branch of the family, while Gudrun glorified their father. She understood that being a Himmler prevented a normal life. She married Hans Steck shortly after the war. The marriage gave her and her children a new last name. The Himmler children became the Steck children. Hedwig lived quietly in Baden-Baden and shielded Helga and Nanette from the public eye. She never publicly denounced Himmler, nor did she glorify him. Survival meant invisibility for her, which differed greatly from the defiant visibility of Margareta and Gudrun. Heinrich Himmler was obsessed with producing male heirs, yet his only son Helga lived a life that would have horrified the Reichsfuhrer. Helga suffered from chronic health issues throughout his life, instead of becoming an SS archetype. He lived a reclusive existence, far from the cameras that followed his half-sister Gudrun. He worked in obscurity and never capitalized on his lineage or spoke to historians. Reports suggest he struggled in a world that judged him for his bloodline. Helga remained the private casualty of the legacy, while Gudrun served as its public face. Nanette Dorothea built perhaps the most normal life of all the Himmler children. She was just a baby when the war ended. She took the surname Steck, like her brother, but built a successful professional career. She studied medicine and became a physician who dedicated her life to saving people. This choice served as an ironic reversal of her biological father's work. Nanette has remained unknown to the media. She has not produced books or interviews. She is reportedly still alive in 2025. She successfully cut ties with the SS legacy and proved that biology does not determine destiny. Heinrich had two brothers, Gebhard and Ernst, who were also involved with the Nazis. Ernst died in Berlin in 1945 while serving as a broadcaster for the regime. Gebhard was a bureaucrat who managed logistics for the SS. He returned to a comfortable middle-class existence in Munich after his release from internment. He worked as an engineer and wrote a brochure attempting to justify the family's actions. The significant story lies in who they left behind. Ernst's granddaughter would eventually break the family's silence. Katrin Himmler was born in 1967, 22 years after her great-uncle died. The name Himmler was a difficult weight during her childhood. History lessons were personal trials in school. Katrin faced the truth rather than running from it. She researched the archives to understand what her grandfather Ernst and her great-uncles had done. The family myth claimed Heinrich was the only radical, while the others were apolitical. Katrin's research disproved this story. She found that corruption was widespread and that her own grandfather had denounced a Jewish colleague. She realized she had to expose the name rather than just live with it. Katrin's rejection of Nazi ideology became deeply personal. She married an Israeli man, descended from the people her great-uncle tried to kill. She kept the name Himmler as a woman married to a Jew. This choice directly opposed Heinrich Himmler's racial theories. She published The Himmler Brothers in 2005 to expose the family's collective guilt. This honest accounting set her apart from other descendants who remained silent. Katrin connected with survivors, while Gudrun supported neo-Nazis. The last direct link to the Third Reich's inner circle ended in May 2018. Gudrun Burwitz died at age 88 in Munich as the unrepentant defender of her father. She never gave an interview or apologized for the Holocaust. Her death marked the end of an era for the German neo-Nazi movement. Many secrets died with her. The loyal faction of the Himmler family ceased to exist. This left critical voices like Katrin to define the legacy. The Himmler family demonstrates how Germany dealt with its past. Gudrun represented denial and secret loyalty to the crimes. She embodied the silence of the post-war generation. Katrin represents painful confrontation and an attempt to heal through truth. This division reflects the nation's history. Powerful friends protected Gudrun's silence for decades. Katrin's voice resonates today. Her work ensures the name Himmler is remembered for the great niece's courage in addition to the great uncle's crimes. The Himmler bloodline has dispersed, and the name is rare. Hedwig's children lived as stakes, with their connection to the Reichsfuhrer known only to a few. Katrin lectures on the dangers of extremism, while her son carries a heritage that moves past his ancestors' hate. Heinrich Himmler's genetic line persists in 2025, while his ideological line has broken. The attempt to create a master race ended with a granddaughter marrying a Jew. History shows irony in this outcome where humanity defeated hate. Heinrich Himmler believed his family would rule Europe, but they scattered into the ruins he created. Some hid in the past while others exposed it. The Himmler story reminds us that we can choose our path even if we cannot choose our ancestors. Blood is inherited, but legacy is chosen. Please like and subscribe for more history content.